listen, we're amateurs.
That's right.
We get a
figure it
break.
out.
So I was thinking about the Ash Wednesday thing, and right away I wanted to like educate, right? So my first knee-jerk reaction is like, oh, I've never been through Ash Wednesday. You teach me, and then we'll teach other people.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then I realized I don't want to make it. I'm all about education, all about learning and research and everything, but I don't want to put any pressure on either of us to like have to be right or have to do research or whatever. I have figured out in the last couple of weeks that I think we should just talk, just unload, which is kind of what we did in the first one. And
Sounds
it was
good.
really received well, right? It's been a rough couple of weeks.
Has it?
Really stressed out.
That's
And I couldn't tell you why.
really.
I mean, I can, but you don't have 3 hours.
Yeah.
But how was your trip?
It was stressful as well. I've been very
Yeah.
stressed too. So, yeah, I just feel like I'm just barely staying afloat. So,
Yeah. Apparently, that seems to be the consensus lately, just in general. Let's start. I'm Carolyn.
I'm Faith.
And this is Faith Forward with open minds
and open hearts.
So, last time we talked about the fact that we wanted to discuss our Reiki sessions and our tarot sessions. And we will 100% get to that because that's the fun, juicy stuff that we're like excited to talk about. But for the sake of the journey, I want to talk about a little bit hiccups in the road of deconstruction. So, which is happening right now for me. And I sent you a video like a week ago or something about with a woman who was describing evangelicals who deconstruct and how they take their ideas of their fundamentalism and then put it into their new ideas. And so, of course, that resonated because I've joined a new church and I've like thrust myself upon them and I've been super involved, and like I even want to pursue leadership if I can. But also when I saw that video, it kind of took me aback and I was like, oh my God, like they're right. I'm being extreme. I'm just being extreme somewhere else. So I kind of panicked a little bit. And when I sent you that video, you said that you've come across that before. So can you like expand on that for me? Just because as someone who's doing it right now and just became self-aware of what I'm doing.
Yeah, I noticed that. I mean, when I first started deconstructing, I luckily found an online group to do that with. So there was, at the time, it was kind of a small group, and now it's huge. But back then, it was about 50 or so people. And after you're in it for a while, you start to see the same conversations happen as people are going through the same, process. It's just, and as I got further down the road and could look back, you see the same recurring themes. And one of them was this, you see people come out of evangelicalism and they start to see the limitations of it. And then they, instead of what they do is they switch their, they just switch beliefs, like what they're believing instead of how they're believing. And that really is the fundamental difference in a progressive approach to Christianity. That really is the liberating part when you can get to it. When you can, instead of looking at your beliefs, and which are important, but it's more important how you believe. So if you can believe with an openness and a loose, gripped way to believing, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think because I walked in there with this idea that I had already thought outside the box from my past church, that I was ahead of the game, which in some respects I was, because I did think outside. And so when I went into this new space, it wasn't that my beliefs are extreme, I think for me, it's my behaviors are mimicking like what I used to do. So two different people asked me what my goal was when I said I'd like to be a leader. One was the pastor, and one was one of the guys in my book club. My knee-jerk reaction is, well, like, you guys have this amazing view of Christianity and how to worship and all this stuff, and I want other people to know, and I want it to go forward, and I know that there's certain people that don't want it to go forward. And so in my mind, I wanted to be part of the team that stops those people from trying to hinder this progressive process, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know, I want to have a vote, I want to have a say, and I want to have not the sense of power, like I want to be in control, but like I want to protect this idea that the majority of this church agrees with, like, which is inclusivity and accepting everybody.
Right.
But then I started to crack a little in this pursuit, because I started, like, I have been getting to know members, and I've joined clubs, and I'm like, I'm in the gospel choir now, I'm in a book club.
Cool.
I've done some of the gay straight alliance stuff in there, and tech team. I've just put my name out everywhere, and I had a feeling this would happen, that it would eventually, everybody would be like, okay, now, all right, you gave us your name, like, let's do this. And I'm like, shit, it's just too much, right?
No, it's a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, I did it to myself.
Yep.
But you know, I'm like, I'm looking at it like, well, am I approaching it the same way that the last place would have? And the last place, you know, numbers are important, and I know that's important for analytics for a church, if looking at a business side. And I do appreciate the business side of any church, because you need money and you need bodies to keep it running. So, but I think it was so ingrained in me how to get people in and keep them, and not in a maniacal way, in a way that's like, you know, it's just such a freaking fine, everything is a fine line with this.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah, I mean, what I keep listening to you talk about this, I know, because I've been through this. Like, I've been through this cycle of, you know, going from an evangelical church that was very, and it was done in the most well-meaning way of looking at numbers, really, you know, as they looked to grow, and then but then questioning that and going, should that even be a focus? Because as soon as that's a focus, then that affects everything how you do everything. So, yeah, it is very subtle, isn't it? But I think let's see, that like the most overarching difference is this element of not having to be right, realizing that I am not in possession of the only right way, and when you come up against those other people who think other than you, if I can enter into that, whatever that might be at the moment, enter into that with an openness and a willingness to hear from them, and to realize that we're not always going to end up on the same side of things, and then find an acceptance of them and me where I am. That's that looseness I'm talking about, like a firm hold, but loosely at the same time.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know.
You know, we talked about the dance, and, you know, last time, and it's this push and pull and this leading and going. And I guess it's, in my mind, I thought, well, I am fine with disagreeing with people, but my urgency comes from a place where I feel like this justice league feeling of, I need to do something about people that don't want others to think outside of what they think. So, you know, so we have this congregation of 200 people. There's 13 out of 200 that are starting all sorts of shit. And every person that I've talked to outside of those people, every person, without even bringing up this group of people, has said to me, oh, I love our church and I love this and we do this. But there are some ... who. So
Mm-hmm.
I know that it's hurting these people and their mission and what they've worked so hard to accomplish. And it just makes me sad because, I look at the way things were at the last place, and yes, it was, and I use this term so loosely, a dictatorship, but it was a dictatorship. It was, this is how it is, and this is how we're going to do it. And so, I was talking yesterday with the pastor about like this dual mindset. Well, evangelicals have this is right and this is wrong. Da, 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 da. So you know where your boundaries are. So
Mm-hmm.
now I'm in a place where those boundaries are kind of like, they're
Yeah.
not really there. So
Right.
when I went go from a dictatorship where I know what to expect, even if I don't agree with them, I know what to expect. I know what
Mm-hmm.
they think. I know what they're expecting me to think, whether I agree or not.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm in a place where like it's kind of like a grab bag. You do your own thing. There's not one real religion here.
Yeah.
Um, the guy that asked me at the book club, why I wanted to be a leader, he was like, like I don't even identify as a Christian, but he's super active in the church. I said, okay, well, what do you call yourself? And he's like, well, I'm more of a Buddhist,
Uh-huh.
but he's at service, he's at prayer, he's at the book club, like
Yeah.
he's doing this and centering prayer, which I've started to do. I've only done it twice, 3 times, um, which I really enjoy. But I can't really do it by myself. I'm not there yet. I need to be led in,
Mm-hmm.
which correlates with the Reiki and things like that, which we'll get to. Um, so I think it's important to, while the issues are here and while I'm feeling these and going through it in real time,
Uh-huh.
to take the time to talk about it, because that's what we're here for, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm in this place now where, ideas are different. And um, I I was at a Bible study last week, and the question was, how did Jesus die to the old self? Right.
Okay. Yeah.
And nobody said anything for a minute. And I, very confidently, because I thought, oh, I know the answer to this.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Jesus didn't die to his old self. He was perfect. He was perfect, right? He, according to the scripture, he did not sin. We die to the old self when we become baptized or whatever. And we died to our old sins and to our past problems. And we are making a choice to follow God, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that room was like, they were quiet for a minute. I think just because they were thinking about it. But in my head, I was like, wait, is this not something that they believe?
Mm-hmm.
Like, like
Right.
now, because I'm in a place where it's kind of like up for interpretation,
Yeah.
I say things very, I'm
Mm-hmm.
thinking, is this what they believe? Like,
Yeah.
are they, and they kind of agreed with me. And so I asked the pastor yesterday, I'm like, is this accurate? Like, did I get that wrong? She was like, no,
Yeah.
no, that's legit. But in that moment, I realized like, I don't know I don't know what audience I'm talking to.
Yeah. I think you're talking about how
How I don't know what my audience is, because I don't know what everybody believes, and we're not all on the same page. So what's okay to say and what's not, and
right, right. Yeah. Well, interestingly enough, that was one of the things that kind of started to irk me, one of those little, points that kind of were pushing me out of evangelicalism as I started to go into leadership positions, and I'd be in small groups, and was really disturbed by, when I was in leadership, the amount of searching for the right answer there was from other people and looking to me as if I mean, like, it was just like an automatic when somebody was in a leadership just position to like default to like, well, what is the right answer about this? Like, there's always a right answer. And I felt really uncomfortable with that because I don't feel like I'm in possession of the answers. Number one, I mean, that's just like an insecurity thing on my part. But then number two, as I started to think about it, realizing that none of us is, it's not, I mean, I really started to question what is truth. What
Hmm.
is truth? And I mean, that's like a fundamental thing that humans have struggled with for, ever, and so many conversations on it. But I think when it came down to after looking at it, there's just no way that us as humans can come to a full knowledge of truth. We have a very limited scope of vision. And so we need other, little inputs from other people to be able to get a fuller picture of what the truth is. And so I started to see my role as in leadership to be more as inviting that conversation. What do you think about this? How do you view this? Because then hopefully us together, all of us together in our views and our experience, past experiences, the way we see things, we can get a fuller idea of what truth really is. But that's very much a mindset in evangelicalism, is that there is one right truth and we're always looking for that. And we default to the leadership and we default to the Bible to tell us. And we don't take stock in our own experiences and views and what we see as truth, which is just as important.
But we were also told not to.
Right, because we're not, yes, because we have a sinful nature and our heart is deceitfully wicked.
Not just that, we didn't go to 5, 7 years of schooling. We didn't study theology and read all the
Well,
books. And
interestingly enough, many evangelical pastors never went to divinity school either.
oh, you know
So,
what? That makes
you
sense.
know, so that's kind of funny that,
Well, my
I don't
guys
know.
did. My past guys, they did. They
Did
both
they?
went together. That's where they met. A perfect love story.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
they went to North Point Bible College.
Hmm.
So when I hear that, and my the pastor I have now also went to school. So in my mind, I think, well, these people studied.
Hmm.
They and while I did trust the old pastors, and I trust that they went through this. Number one, they went through school 40 years ago. This pastor went to
Yeah.
school 10 years ago or 15 years ago. You know what I mean? And it was two different ideas, but I think to myself, well, these people have put hours and hours and hours into studying the Bible, the gospel,
Sure.
and so that's where that comes from. But then, of course, yes,
Well, that's
um,
legit. I mean, you always defer to people who've had more education for
yeah.
maybe a better understanding of things. That's fine. But yeah.
But I think in the last place, it was like, well, you take his word for it because he is in charge, you know?
Hmm.
And and if you're not allowed to go with your feelings and work through your feelings, or like, I feel like God's telling me this, or God's moving me to do that, if you're not allowed to do that, well, then all you have is his word,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
So now I'm in a new place that I'm like, I have no problem questioning things. I am finding that there are things that I didn't think to question.
Hmm. Hmm.
So like that answer that I gave at the Bible study, and like when I was met with just like these blank stares, I was like, did I get that wrong? Like, and then I
Yeah.
thought, what else do I not know? Which of
Hmm.
course is a bigger question, which is of course why I'm not sleeping at night, because who
Uh,
can answer that? How do I know
yeah.
what I don't know?
I
that
know.
that's a big responsibility that I can't really sustain.
Yeah. No. No. It's you can't take that on.
And yet here I am trying. So what's
Yeah.
going on? I don't know.
Oh, I know.
So
Yeah, it is unnerving though, because um, there's a certain group consensus that you can kind of come into at evangelical churches, where you know the right terms to use and the right wording to use. And you know, when you say those things, you'll get these little head nods and head bobs about, oh yeah, you're right on, sister, whatever, you know,
Amen.
amen.
Preach.
And you know, as long as you say it the right way, and you know that to get that affirmation, and that's a real comforting thing. But so when you go to a new place, wherever, whatever is new, and you're not sure what those boundaries are and what's okay to say and whether you're going to say like the wrong, I still get that when I talk about you know, issues that were never addressed in the evangelical church, like gay people or racism. Or when I'm entering into conversations like that, I get my blood pressure goes up because I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to say the wrong thing and I'm going to offend
Oh,
somebody because I don't have experience with it, right?
right.
So I think that's normal when you're just entering a new space, and it takes boldness and courageousness to really enter into those unknown spaces where you don't know, and you risk making a fool of yourself, and you risk people thinking, you know, oh, she's pretty closed-minded, to try to become open-minded. So
Right.
it, yeah.
I think it was easier before because the first like 3 or 4 months in, I only dealt with like 1 to 2 people. And now that I've done this, like I've made this goal of meeting somebody new every week and spending time with them and getting their views and really getting to know them. Now I'm involved in their personal lives. And not completely, but they know who I am. I know who they are. And so now it's like, okay, it's easy when I know that I'm dealing with 1 or 2 people who are open minded and, you know, they're telling me this is a safe place to mess up. And then it's another thing to add 15 more people into that group and go, are they also as understanding? You know?
Hmm.
I mean, it was reiterated to me even just yesterday that it is a safe place. And in my mind, I know that. And I know that there's going to be people that are going to be a thorn in my side. But even if that happens, I know it's, I know it's not as bad as I think in my head. This is just my trauma response flaring up in a really intense way.
So how
And
do
it's
you,
the,
what do you mean by trauma response? Like what does that come from? Is it just like,
now that I'm friends with this new church, friends with people there, and like like spending time outside of church with them, like going out to dinners and lunches and things like that. um I I'm building my community, and I just lost a whole community. So
okay.
I'm excited, and they're excited to talk to me, and we're excited to learn about each other and share ideas. But then when I'm home alone or I'm in the car or I'm alone with my thoughts, it goes to how long will it last? When will I say something that they think is obscene and not talk to me? I've already dealt with at least one person who I don't want to deal with anymore. I'll probably have to deal with that person anyway, multiple times, but I've already decided like that's not a safe person. I don't want to deal with that person, which is fine. That's not where the trauma is coming from. Maybe a little because she's a little bit aggressive, um but it's more in like the people that I'm now caring for and loving, because I'm thinking, okay, you know, in my rational mind, I know these people are more open minded and they're more understanding and they are in tune with their feelings and like it makes sense on paper. But then I go home and I go, okay, like, is this going to fall apart? How,
Mm,
when is it going to fall apart? Is it falling apart right now? And what am I doing? Am I doing everything right? Because now people are saying, you know, the more I share my ideas, like, hey, I want to be in leadership. I've had a couple of people be like, wait, try and wait a minute, like slow down.
mhm,
And at first I was like, they don't believe in me. They're not taking me seriously because I'm young, or they're not taking me seriously because I'm new and they think I don't know. But really, it came from a place of like really sound advice, like wait, watch, wait and watch in the wings,
mhm.
and get your bearings about you. And I think because I didn't do that, now I'm tripping over my own feet, and I'm like, and that overstimulation is rushing in, and that's where the trauma comes in, and the trauma response of panicking, and this anxiety that I'm living with, which is extreme. I mean, extreme. The last couple of days has just been extreme. I mean, I was able to sleep last night, and I think it's because I was able to do the centering prayer, and I was with people all day yesterday that like took turns calming me down. Like, I know enough about I am very self-aware enough where I know, like, when I feel myself starting to spiral before it gets to an extreme place, I need to call in help. So I spoke with my sister-in-law. A friend from the church called me, who's also a therapist. So like he saw the sign of me. All I said was, "You busy?" And he was like, "What's going on?" I was like, "Whoa," like, you got me, which is great.
Yeah.
And they're allowing space for me to go through this. And I guess sometimes I just feel like this part should be over already. And I probably have said that before, and I'll probably say it 100 times. Like, all right, I've been gone for like almost 7 months now. I've been with this new place for 7 months. But once in a while, I'll see a picture of somebody pop up on somebody else's feed, and I'm like, ooh. Or like I'll drive by the old church because like I have an appointment down there, and I'm like, ugh. I see their cars. It floods me because I think about how poorly they look at me now.
Yeah.
And I know that I shouldn't care, but
Well,
those are people that I loved, and I know that they're looking at me like I'm lost, like I'm a
I
jerk, like
know.
I'm a villain.
I know. Isn't that, it's so hard. I went through the same thing. And it's our personalities are different. So like I kind of just faded out, right? That's kind of how I do things. I just kind of like fade out. I don't confront or say anything to people. But I still know because I was so active that there was probably I mean in my mind nobody ever said anything to me. Like, and I know you know, but I know because I've been them before and seen people fall away, right?
Yep, fall away.
That I know what they're thinking, like, oh, I gotta pray for her. I've gotta, and it's just so hurtful. And to know also that there wasn't a place for me really in their lives apart from just seeing them on Sundays, or like it wasn't anything beyond that.
Yeah.
And it hurt more than I really ever expected to. I thought, this isn't for me anymore. That's okay. I'll walk away or slowly walk away. And I'll let certain people know where it's appropriate, what's going on. I don't want to
Right.
make a scene. I don't make a fuss, whatever. But it took me years not to say that. And I hate to say that to you because I know you're going through this, but it took me years, and I would say that to my husband. I'm like, I can't believe how hurt I am about this. And there would be certain interactions I would have with church members. Maybe I saw them on a walk, and I'd start talking about church, and I'd come home and I'd be like close to tears. I'm like, what the heck? Is this just church? It's not my family. And so I kept on going, like not giving
But
myself
it
enough
was.
credit, but it was, yes.
It was your family.
But I'm not, I'm not like, I also wasn't like the most, I'm not like a super social person. So it's not like I was like hanging out their houses all the time or calling them all the time or
Like me.
whatever.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, you were
Yeah.
more social. Yeah. And, but it still was a big connection for me. It was hard. Probably
I
took
think
me 2 to 3 years to kind of be okay.
I saw something the other day that a girl was online, and she said it takes 3 to 5 years to recover from burnout. So, and she was talking about any burnout, like a job, or in our case, a church, to kind of recover from what happens there. So you were a leader, you were involved. Um, yeah, you weren't like having parties or anything, but you were involved. And and I kind of left the same way. I didn't make a big thing. I did set aside 2 hours for each pastor to explain to them what I was doing and where I was going, only because I was so close with them. But I had friends that I thought were like my besties, and they were like, I'll still talk to you. There was like one girl, one or two people out of all, for someone like me who was in everybody's face, sat in the second row. I mean, did all the things. I had the same I, I had the same response from people, is that, and people who, the very few people who knew that I was just going to leave were like, I'll still make time for you. And then suddenly there was no time, and that time never came. I think it was just easier for them to walk away. And I've told you this in the past, it took 2 months for anyone outside that immediate circle who knew what I was doing to even say something. And it was like one girl, because I was very close with her kids. And I'm going to guess that maybe her kids were asking for me, like, where's Miss Carolyn? Like, so I was telling somebody this story, and she started crying when I told her that. I was like, yeah, nobody noticed. And she was like, I hate that. I hate that. I go, it's okay. And she goes, like, I'm comforting her. And she's like, no, that's not right. And I'm like, I know it's not right. And it only validates our reason, but it also, church wasn't just church for either of us. Even if you weren't super, super tight knit with people, you had a place there. And the number one thing they try to do there is make you feel so important and so valued. I said this yesterday. My pastor would always say, oh, I'm so proud of you. I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you. I heard I'm proud of you all the freaking time when I was doing the things that they liked me doing. I'm proud of you. You prayed out loud for the first time. I'm proud of you. You joined ministry. I'm proud of you. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah. And then I noticed when I started, projecting my own ideas, that that praise was not that was gone. And even in my last meeting with the pastor, he used to always say at the end of the session, when we chatted, which was like hundreds of times, he would always say, you're loved, and pray for me. And he didn't say that at the last meeting. And it was not lost on me. I think he felt like he didn't do his job. That, I think, is residual leftover trauma. And I think, like, when we run into these people or we see their faces online or something, that is a trigger, and it reminds us, like, oh, those people are still showing up every week, hugging and loving and telling somebody else how important they are, and they don't mean it. Because now I'm sitting here feeling a little bit resentful, like, you talked about how you poured so much love into me and how you did all this work with me, and then, like, you were done and it was over.
Yeah.
It's interesting to hear that happened to you, because I expect it with me, because I'm so intense and I need so much from people. Like, I know how needy I am. I know how much of their energy I can take. So it also brings light to me that for you who are not confrontational, to have the same kind of experience.
Well, I think if we look at our similarities here, and I think this kind of thing is important to do, right? What is it about us that opens us up to that kind of relationship that's not healthy? So have you ever heard the term codependency, right? If you're
Yes.
codependent, you're kind of really enmeshed in another person's well-being, and this and you're like always, I don't know that I can really give a good definition of it, but I feel like there's something in me that kind of goes to that type of relationship where I give a lot, whatever, I invest a lot of myself into something, and then there's something here that opens me up to being to draw into that type of situation, number one. So I think that the evangelical churches kind of draw that personality that really just needs to kind of go in and like hear the praise when you do the right things, like you heard from them, like I'm so proud of you. Who
Hmm.
doesn't love to hear that? But when you're a person like me, and maybe you're the same way, you can tell me, um, who maybe has a hard time giving myself enough credit, that I need a little bit of external, like, you're
Yes,
okay, you're
validation. Yeah.
good, validation, right, for how I feel. So I don't know, that's one of the things I'm trying to work on me personally, so that I don't get drawn in those same sort of situations again, that I can listen to my own internal voice. I can trust my own intuition and my own experiences and my own being to tell me what's right, what's wrong, what I should do, and not give too much of myself. Like, where do I stop, and where do I say that's enough? I'm not going to give any more, because I can't give any more without it having an ill effect on me. That type of thing. I don't
Well, what
know.
about this? What about this? Like, I thought that too for a long time. I agree with you. I still to this day don't give myself enough credit. And that's just on childhood trauma. I and
Yeah.
being expected to fail all the time. However, there's been many, many years where I've tried to be like, I have to do this myself. I can't need anybody. I need to be self-reliant. And I am at the point in my life where I realize I cannot do that. And it's
Yeah.
okay. So
Yeah.
instead of, I am very codependent. I do, like I said, yesterday it took three people and a meditation session to like bring me back down from the spiral that I had been in for days and days. Um, and you know what? I know that that works for me and I need that validation and I'm vocal about that validation and that I need that when I need it. I don't need it every day. If you need it every day, there's some worse. You got to go talk to somebody,
Yeah.
but what I've done now is instead of finding codependent relationships where I'm vetting people more. So, like the people that I am codependent with, which would be my friends or my leaders who are helping me, um, I just make sure that they are coming from a space that's in my best interest.
Hmm.
So
That's
it's
probably not
okay.
codependent. That's probably just
Well,
having good relationships, right? There's a give and a take, and
yeah, I mean, there is and there isn't. So, like, I do depend on other people to get me out of situations. There are certain situations mentally that I cannot get myself out of, and
mhm,
I need people to get me out. Now, at the old place, they saw that as an opportunity to create a loving relationship, which would coddle me and mold me,
mhm.
right? And so, but that same situation in somebody else's hands are, I'm going to let you do this. I'm going to give you your validation, but I'm also going to point you where you need to be for your own good. So the thing is I still do need those people. I still need that.
Yeah.
I need somebody to tell me I'm doing it right. And not every day, but, uh, you know, healthy codependency, I think, is
Mm,
important, you know, for me, for my journey,
yeah.
because I have so much that I need to process that I do need somebody else. I do need to know. I need that for now. That's part of my healing journey is that
Uh-huh.
I need to do it with people. And I don't want to isolate myself and say, oh, I need to get my own shit together because I
Yeah.
can't. I can't get my own
No,
shit
that's
together. I
that's
can't
not
do it.
healthy for anybody, no, regardless, of
Right.
how they are. So we all need people. It's just a matter of having a healthy reciprocal relationship where you give and you take, and you get,
Yeah.
everybody is giving and taking in turn at different times, but hopefully
Hmm.
overall equally, right?
Yeah.
So,
Look for those
and
people.
yeah.
With that in mind, I've been trying different remedies for healing or connecting to God. And
Mm-hmm.
one of those things I tried a couple months ago was Reiki. Now, I had heard about it before, and I understood in my head what they would do. Now, have you
Uh-huh.
had Reiki or no?
I'm trying to remember. I might have had it once, and I have to tell you, it freaked me out, or just, and I don't remember if it was that it was a possibility of it happening because I knew the friend practiced Reiki and I was getting a massage from her, or
Oh,
I don't
you were.
remember. I don't remember if I was just afraid it was going to happen or because I was at that point scared, or if it really did happen and it freaked me out too. I don't remember, but yeah,
Well,
so.
that's a good thing to talk about now, because at that time you were in the church, right?
Mhm.
When you got this massage. So why was getting Reiki, even like you being afraid she's going to sneak a little Reiki in there on you?
Yeah.
Why was that so scary?
Because any type of that energy healing, that type of, I mean, it was anything related to new age stuff was so villainized as being of the devil that, I mean, I just heard it over and over again. And when you read like the Frank Peretti books, the End Time series that he did, I don't
Oh
remember all
God,
the
the
titles.
end times, the end times.
And he, I mean, I used to really love those books, and that it talks, I mean, the books tell the story of like the unseen worlds and all the demons and the angels that are working behind the scene,
Mm.
and it just is so, the demons are so evil, and I was just sure that that was what, what they were doing. Oh, it freaked me out. So that's why, just that indoctrination of it, anything new age being evil and bad and of the devil.
And it's funny because, they call it new age, but it's really older than all of us, older than a lot
Yeah.
of religions.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you my experience
Yep. Please.
because
Curious.
it was awesome. So, and it's funny you mentioned the massage, because a month later, I went and got a deep tissue massage because I was just I've been having these waves of anxiety that last for maybe a week at a time, each month. And so I was just trying to find what works. The Reiki, I will say hands down, was more, gave me more relief than the physical massage.
Oh,
And
wow.
physical touch is a big love language for me. And I have been single for like 6 years. And the only real contact I have with people is at church on Sunday, when I hug like one or two people. And then when I am a nanny and I have the baby, like we don't hug in my family. We don't, none of that.
Hmm.
So I'm definitely starved for that. But which is why you would think the massage would be helpful, and it is,
Yeah.
but not like the Reiki.
Huh.
So I went to a friend of mine who, eh, it was hard a little bit to start because I know her as my friend and now I'm in her business, like laying out on this table. So
Yeah.
I had my sweats on. You keep all your clothes on, put the blanket up to like about here, and it starts with like a guided meditation. So the thing about Reiki is they use their hands, and they, which is common in Eastern medicine, is like your energy comes through your hands and they're passing their energy from their hands to you and aligning with your energy, whatever.
Hmm.
So she started by talking me through it, like, sink into the table, feel your body, feel your breath. And then she would not like grab, but like gently touch. And there's 7 points to your chakras, right? There's 7 chakras, I think.
Hmm.
Again, not an expert. Please don't quote me
Yeah,
on
I
this.
think you're right.
um, but I know there's the rainbow. It starts at the head, third eye, throat, chest,
Solar
gut,
plexus.
crotch, you know,
Yeah.
all of that. So it goes
Not the
down.
technical terms, Carolyn. Those are
It's
the
not.
technical terms, right?
Oh, I thought like my crotch chakra. My
Yeah.
crotch chakra's been shut down for years.
Oh
So
gosh.
I told you, no filter.
Oh.
So she starts off and she said, some people experience like visions or hallucinations or colors or whatever. And now for me, whose brain ADHD high never stops, I thought there's no way I'm going to be able to be quiet. or sit still for an hour, but I did. So she started with the head, and she just touched, and she was just like, sink into this, blah, 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 blah. When she got to my neck, I mean, it was probably she spends a few minutes on each point. When she got to my neck, I had relaxed enough where I started seeing colors.
Wow.
I was blindfolded, which helps. Like, you don't have to be, but I was blindfolded, and inside my eyelids, it was like splashes of color. It was like somebody throwing paint.
Wow.
And it was bright, deep purples. And then it was going down and fading into like deep blues and then back up to purple.
Wow. Cool.
Maybe for like a couple minutes, right? I couldn't hold that forever, but that happened. And then when she moved her hands here, I had a very, very extreme reaction that I didn't expect. So when I was in college, I was sexually assaulted. And that feeling of trapped.
Yeah.
And she's barely touching me. She's just sending her energy here. And I cannot tell you, even though I knew I could just flinch and her hands would be off, my brain went to a place where I was like, I felt the cage. I felt trapped. I felt the pressure. I felt all these things flood up, which I was really surprised because, it's been years and years, and it doesn't really affect me for the most part, other than being cautious around men in general. I was surprised at that reaction. It came up, and it just was like, I started seeing, it was like scenes were playing out in my mind of people that were more than one, like inappropriate with me or harmful for me, and kept me caged. So when that happened, it kind of like my brain, she wasn't saying anything other than, come back to your breath. Every few minutes she'd say, come back to your breath, wherever you are, come back, which was good because she had the perfect timing where when I would start to like feel like I was panicking inside, her talking to me brought me back. And it wasn't like a bad panic. It was like, oh gosh, like I have to face these people again. And it did make me cry a little. And she said that could happen. Like you can have some extreme reactions because you're not just like, oh, I'm taking a rest. Like you're doing work. Your energy is part of you. Yeah, your energy is part of you. And the idea of Reiki is healing. And I didn't realize how much was going to happen in that. So I saw some of my offenders and I saw some other stuff come up, and it was almost like she knew. She was like, as these if any dark things come up, just usher them away. They're not bad, they're not good. Just let it pass through you. And I did. And she moved further down, and then probably at the halfway mark, she switched it up a little and she put crystals on me. So she put a crystal on my head on all the points. And she said, I'm going to hold your feet. And some people feel a rush come from everything kind of like pull down.
Wow.
I didn't feel, yeah. I mean, I was like, I thought I knew what Reiki was, but girl, I guess I didn't.
Yeah. You're totally informing me. I had no idea it was like this.
I thought I was informed, but so I didn't feel a rush when she held my feet, but like what she was doing was, the different crystals have different energies. And this I do know because I have friends, and like, unfortunately, Evan, our schedules just couldn't align. But Evan knows a lot about crystals, and he taught me through the years, and so each one has this, that's why the different colors have different points and whatever. And so putting those in, supposedly your energy will flow to those points, point. And then when she grabs my feet, it's
Uh-huh.
gonna pull everything down
Oh, okay.
and out. Um, I did feel a lot of activity in my brain. If I know that's hard to explain, but I felt like things that I needed to deal with or had deal with, had dealt with, were just kind of just in a reel in my brain. And when she held my feet, the colors came back. And I remember thinking, I have to remember what colors I'm seeing. So the first time it was purple and blue, and
Yeah.
the second time was white and gold.
Oh,
So
interesting. Huh.
so I could feel myself starting to shake my head. Like I don't want to think about these people. Um, and so I redirected my thoughts to try to feel God, right? So I feel like with all these practices, they are spiritual. They are meant to connect to our higher power, however that is.
Mm-hmm.
And in my head, I'm going, God, help, tell me what to do. Tell me what to do.
Yeah.
Tell me what to do. And that's something I pray often. It's just like, tell me what to do. I want you to tell me.
Yeah.
And I felt a clear response.
Really?
I did, especially coming from somebody who was told, like, you don't know if your thoughts are from God. I felt
Yeah.
like this was from God. And I felt God say to me, you're doing it. What do you want me to do? You're doing it. You're
There you
doing it.
go.
And then all the people from the old church were just coming in my mind. I'm like, yeah, but this happened. Like these
Yeah.
people, what about them and what they did? And again, a clear answer. And these are only the only two answers I got to these questions. And that's all I needed was, I will never leave you without a hand to hold. So what that means to me, and in my mind, I just kept repeating that, I will never leave you without a hand to hold. I'll never leave you that. I didn't want to
Oh,
forget. And
yeah.
and what that means is I've had many women throughout the years carry me through different times of my life. And like that codependency, I tell you, like, I need that. I need
Yeah.
somebody to carry me. I need somebody to hold my hand. And um I left that place and I left one of my most cherished ladies who carried me through that dark time. But she passed me off to a new person who's going to carry me through this time, who is carrying me through this time, who is each person is appropriate for the section of my life that I'm trying to manage or get. This section of life, like the last person, the last woman from that place, she, even though we talk about the love bombing and the proud and she did fill a void. She was there for all the
Sure.
hugs and all the phone calls and all the love and
Yep.
excited to see me. And I needed that. I needed somebody excited to see me and tell me they loved me all the time. And that healed a huge, huge void in my heart. So
Mm-hmm.
losing that person also left a little bit of a hole, not as big as when I met her, but I saw the exchanging of hands in that session
Oh,
where
wow.
you're in good hands. You know that I've sent you someone else. You can't
Mm-hmm.
keep them all, like, and of course I want to keep them
Yeah.
all forever. And most of the women I would say that are in my life that have been this pillar and this teaching me how to be a good woman and be a
Mm-hmm.
safe woman and a strong woman, most of them are still in my life, even if it's minimal.
Mm-hmm.
So this last one was the pastor's wife, and to let go of her being one of my pillars, oh God, that hits different.
Yeah.
So I felt that going through this session where I'm going, what about her? Like,
Yeah.
I don't want to leave her. And in my heart, I know that she is probably 100% fine without me in her life, which kills me inside,
Yeah.
definitely. But she was hurting me in the end because her role was over.
Mm-hmm.
And it had to be this way, because I would have never left her if she had kept, even if it was fake, if she had kept reacting to me the way she had in the beginning, I would have never walked away, no matter how toxic it was.
Yeah.
And
See, it
I,
all happens for a reason, and it's for your growth and
right,
your betterment. So,
right. And she's the reason I hung on, and she's the reason I stayed. And even though she put me through absolute hell for a year, like mental hell, I it took that long for me to be like, okay, I can't do this anymore. And so sitting through that, or laying through that session, all of those things kind of came into light. And I was able to lay still and just be there with those thoughts. And yes, I did cry, not a lot, just a few tear skis, but it was more like a release. It wasn't in deep sadness. It wasn't in um, fear. It wasn't in any of that. It was feeling like I connected to God for even just a minute, and
mhm.
feeling that I received the messages that I needed to receive at that time.
Yeah.
And so I only broke silence once, and I really didn't want to, but I didn't want to move. It's you almost feel like you can't move. Like you really are in this state of like you can't even feel your body at some points, because it's just like your body's not important at that moment.
Huh.
It's like you don't I don't know how to explain that. And maybe it's different for other people, but that's how I
Yeah.
felt. You're on this warm table with a warm blanket and you just kind of melt into everything. But I carry my anxiety right over my heart,
Mm.
which is so cliche.
Yeah.
But it's tight here. It's tight when I'm having this. And it, like I said, it lasts for days, and I have shortness of breath. Today's a good day. It has lifted, thank God. But that day I broke the silence and I said, my chest hurts. It's my anxiety. I need you to focus here. So she did more like, she focused more here to just, I was like, that's why I was there. I wanted her to break up that feeling, give me relief from that feeling for a moment,
Yeah.
which it was for a moment, and maybe like a couple hours. And then later it did come back because I was already, I was back in the world.
Yeah.
Um, so at the end, she did her little singing bowl to kind of bring me out. And you feel a little disoriented because um, now you have to like get up, pay the bill, and go in the car and go home,
Right. Right.
which
Yeah.
is,
It's weird.
you have to go back to life. And
Yeah.
I wish I could have sat in that. Just like, I wish I could have been like, she does do home visits now. Her office, she had to close her office, but I would love it. I'd love to stay, like have it done in my home and just stay in that state. Like, okay, here, bye, just let yourself out.
Right.
But I can't. So I, she asked me like, do you want to share anything about your experience? And I said, yeah. I saw colors. So I told her about the colors. And she said, like, the purple
Mm.
is your mind chakra, and the blue is your third eye. Um, so what was happening where my mind was bouncing back and forth between my mind and my third eye, it's like my mind is getting in the way of my third eye, which
Mhm.
is your spiritual awakening. It
Mhm.
was getting in the way. That's why it was mostly purple, jumping down to blue, back up to purple, because I'm teetering between the two. I'm trying to open, but my mind is so intense. And I told her about the gold and the white, and that is, I think she said, was more of a just part of your soul, just waking up and moving through you and kind of cleaning you out, like energy wise.
Mhm.
Um, so I I would recommend that to anybody. I think for especially those of us who are in tune with our feelings and in tune with our higher power, I think Reiki, it's sad that these other churches are like, no, don't touch that, don't do that,
I
because I
know.
felt closer to God in those moments than I think I don't want to say that I've ever felt, but it was a very strong contender, and it was very big deal.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the reason why like I'm pushing and exploring these things because it was such a fear-based avoidance for so
Mm,
long that I feel like
yeah,
when that's in place, it's like a barrier to something that might be actually very helpful, and it's good to
right,
explore it.
right. So maybe like a month later, I had gone to centering prayer for the first time, and it was shared there that somebody else did Reiki, and they actually went. It's actually a new place in town, which I'm going to try. I need to try this woman. She's a shaman.
Hmm.
So, do you know what that is?
Yeah. Hmm.
Okay. So this shaman works at Happy Soul in Niantic. And so when I hear the word shaman, I think, okay, this person really is really in tune, really is connected.
See, I
Um,
automatically think evil, Satan, devil.
no, I
No, but
didn't
I
say, I
not that
know,
I know in my mind it's not, and
I
actually
know.
I'm getting more different associations, but that's in my gut. So there
I
you
would
go.
think that if it was like, if I was like, yeah, I went to a voodoo witch doctor, that would
Yeah.
make me think like, there's only certain things that even I don't screw with. And the number one thing, and I'll tell you this right now, don't ever do it. Ouija board. Don't ever do it.
I couldn't ever do it. I've been
Don't.
scarred from people telling me horror stories
You know
for
what? And
life.
that's not on Christianity. That's any religion. You
Yeah.
don't mess with the Ouija board. Period. It's one thing we can all agree on. Don't fuck with that, because that is how you get, that is a portal. It will open. I believe that to my core, that a
Wow.
Ouija board will open a portal, because I believe in spirits. I believe in ghosts. I believe there's a veil and we can come between it. And so this person said that they connected with their parent, um, and the shaman actually was a clairvoyant who could connect you to somebody on the other side, and
Hmm.
they felt like they did. And so I was like, oh my gosh, sign me up for
Oh,
that
really?
experience.
You want to
Hell
connect with
yes.
somebody on the other side?
Absolutely,
Oh,
absolutely.
who?
Anybody, whoever wants to
Anybody?
talk to
Oh,
me.
okay. You just you just want to make connections. That's just you.
I Yeah, literally to a T. But the fact is that, like, I love the idea of mediums. I am very skeptical. I'll tell you that right now. I'm very
Uh-huh.
skeptical of medium, but I want to believe, because I would love to have validation that we can talk to the other side and we can communicate safely. Like
Yeah.
Ouija board, if you don't know what you're doing, you have no business touching something like that ever.
Yeah.
A shaman who's has probably has spirit guides, and mediums have spirit guides, um, who protect them from evil and protect them from dark forces. Because I do believe in demons, and I do believe that there are evil things out there in the world. There absolutely is. But it's just like, I wouldn't go to the zoo and be like, let me go feed an alligator. Like, I,
Hmm.
I don't want to get my arm bit off. So there are people who are experts in these fields who can um, perform these things. And they are taboo for a reason, because they can open up dark things. But in the right, appropriate hands, they can be used for good. And it doesn't have to be something like, it's like, never go on a boat, it could sink. Like, well,
Yeah.
if you have people that know what they're doing, then they can guide you in, and you can be a great experience. So
Hmm.
that's what we're looking for these days. So I'd like to go see this woman, because I think I'll have a completely different experience with this woman, um, because of what she knows and how she connects. And maybe if
Hmm.
I go to another Reiki master, um, I'll have a different experience with them, because it's all about how they're channeling energy,
You're
and
right.
connecting it to your energy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. Definitely. Yep.
So I big fan. 10 out of 10 would recommend of Reiki.
Well, I mean, I have been, I mean, because I tend to be more, I like to explore ideas more than experience them. So I have read a bit on Reiki, and I am fascinated by it because I feel a little bit drawn to that healing work. I feel like I have a leaning towards that, a sensitivity that more so than most people towards feelings, emotions, energies. I feel like, anyhow, so I feel a little bit of a draw. Or like I could do something like that. And to get a little weird, I too, like as I watch like a priest go up and perform like their priestly liturgies and everything,
Mm-hmm.
I just can so see myself doing that, but doing it, and how do I even put this? Like in a way that carries a spiritual presence to it. Like I feel like I could embody that very well and bring in a spiritual presence. I just have that feeling, and I don't know what that is. That's why I've like considered maybe I should, go in and be an Episcopal priest. I've considered that before, just because I can envision and just see myself being that type of, I don't know, just like I can provide that.
Vessel.
Yeah, I don't know. So whatever that
Yeah.
is, what it is.
No, that's legit. And I think that's part of the reason why I wanted to be in leadership as well, too, because, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but would you consider yourself an empath?
I think so. I mean, there's so much talk of that online, right? And I don't know, some of it's, I don't I don't know what to think, but I'm definitely something of that for sure. I
Like, do you
do.
pick up on other people's emotions and
Oh,
you feel for them and
yes.
like you internalize that? So yeah, you are. That's a real thing,
Yeah.
even if it's oversaturated in the social media. But so
Yeah.
that's why you feel that connection, because if you're an empath and you really truly feel, which I believe you are, and mainly I believe that because just the fact that you left your religious tradition in search of truth and love.
Mm,
And most people I've found really just want to be told what to think and do. And
mm,
for people like us who feel things on a really deep level, whether you're introverted or extroverted, um, we do feel that connection to spirit more intensely. And so that was the driving force. I would feel confident to say that drove you out of the church,
mhm.
because there's more to this. And the fact that
Yeah.
you're trying to open up to other ways and unlearn these restrictions and these open these locked doors, it's because you know something else is out there and you want to connect to that. And priests connect to that and preachers connect to that because they've unlocked that that soul bond with their creator, I think.
Hmm.
And that's why they can preach, because they they understand that the spirit is bigger than all of us, and that we're all connected. So I think if you had a Reiki session, or even explored multiple different ways that people connect to spirit, like the meditation of monks,
Mhm.
or um, things like that. I think you should try to experience things. I know you like to read about them, but and
I'm
it's scary. I
scared
think
to experience
I
things. I'm
know
so
I
fearful. That's the thing. I need to let go of
that,
that. But
but you got to give yourself a break because you were taught to be afraid.
oh yeah, I know.
I
Totally.
mean, you were number one taught to be afraid. Number
Mhm.
two, love God.
Yeah.
One, fear. Two, love. And
Right.
that is wrong. And so that takes a lot of work to undo. But just the fact that you're willing to, reading and researching is the first step to then getting to that experience.
Mhm.
So you're on the right track. And so don't feel bad that you're not moving faster, because look what I did. I went way too fast and then I completely crashed and melted down.
Yeah.
So,
Oh.
but I'm used to doing that, and I know I'll bounce back and that's fine. But I would super encourage you to try this. So
I will try the Reiki at some point, definitely. I have an interest. It's just a matter of getting to a place where I could find time and energy to do that. But I did go to a tarot session, so that was something
that was
huge
my
for
next
me.
question. Yeah, because tarot is not so much a, a spiritual experience, it's more of fortune telling, right? Kind of.
A very general advice type of fortune. It's not like it'll
Right.
tell you your fortune what's going to happen in the future, but it's like this is the types of themes you can,
Hmm.
experience or anyways, yeah, they answer
So
different questions, but
explain to me um, how your experience went and what your intentions are, because I know you have to set an
mm,
intentions for tarot.
this one was different. I mean, it was the one that I went to two actually. So
You're
uh,
on your way.
well, I
Two
went with
whole tarots.
I did. Well, I went with two other friends the first time, and then some other of our group of friends wanted to go as well, so we went with them a second time.
So this was a group thing.
Yeah, which was
Okay.
nice. It was nice to have company. I wasn't doing it alone. But yeah, so it went in and it was a new year, turn of the new year was in January. So it answered like, what are you going to, the spread was supposed to read three answer to questions, like three questions, like what are you going to supposed to leave behind in 2021?
Hmm.
What are to take forward in 2022? Something like along those lines. I don't remember exactly there were four questions now. I don't remember them, but what I experienced was that it actually like spoke to me, right? Like I was like, I can see that. That's completely. I mean, that's very relevant for where I'm at. Very relevant. And I'm not going to go into the specifics because it's personal stuff, but it was
Right.
very relevant. And I was talking about it with my friends afterwards and I just was saying how um, the thing that intrigues me is how it is it that it becomes like how does that happen, right? Like what is happening in there, like what is actually happening. You have the tarot cards, which are these different kind of archetypal figures that all carry a certain meaning behind them or stand for certain things, and you can apply that kind of view, that archetype, that approach to different scenarios in your life, and you kind of make these associations and it speaks to you. um, so what I was hypothesizing was that really it comes down to the person who enters into that reading and how they're going to take it. If you're one of the type of person who goes in and can take meaning, is open to meaning as it's being relayed to you, all those cards do is just open up like kind of it's like a creative stimulus, like think on this issue and here's like a limitation, and then all of a sudden your brain fills in and your subconscious and your spirit fills in all the rest of the things that you need to hear along those lines. So it just kind of stimulates the answers to things that you need to look at. um, so I don't know that there's necessarily any magic in there, any like maybe there's spiritual guidance. I don't know, but I feel like if you're looking scientifically, I would say that's a real thing that's happening. Um, and I was just fascinated that it really did speak to me both times.
And you liked it?
I did. I did. I had a little bit of a freak out moment in the first one, like sitting there going, kind of like the anxiety, panicky feeling, like, where's the
Yeah.
door? How can I get out of this without making a scene really quick, kind of thing. But it subsided and it was fine. But I feel like I conquered one of my fears by doing that, and
That's
I
cool.
felt good about it. I don't know that I'll go have tarot readings and I'll feel specifically drawn to them, I'm glad I had the experience. So,
Me too, because I think for you, overcoming those um, old past fears that are now outdated for you
mhm,
is huge. For me, tarot, I like tarot. I look at it the way I look at horoscopes. They're for
mhm,
fun. They're kind of general. I can probably fit them into what I'm thinking doing, and I've found that most of that, I had asked the last place, why do you guys hate tarot, and they're like, well, you're not meant to know the future. And most of the time when I've had tarot readings, they're really just telling me like where I'm at. I'm like, I already know where I'm at, you know? and, and so for me, it's just like, oh, it's like a cute little fun thing. But there are people who take it very, very seriously, and that works for them. What was explained to me is that when you set your intention, the person reading you the tarot connects to their spirit guide. Again, there's always with this, I think that's probably why the Baptists don't like, the evangelicals don't like it, because you're not connecting to God. There are spirit guides on the other side.
Yeah.
That because God has other crap to do. And it's kind of like how we have our guardian angels. Spirit guides are there to do the healing work, and angels come from God and whatever. So they're there to show you what you need to see if you want to see it.
You believe that there are spirit guides and
I do.
Helper spirits and angels and things like that.
I do.
Yeah.
Do you believe in angels?
I don't know. Like I think the jury's out on that one for me.
Angels are in the Bible.
Sure, but as far as being able to call on them for help anytime, like some of the New Age stuff does, I don't know about that. I mean, I don't see why not, but
I don't call on them. I believe in angels. I pray to God. I call on God. But I do believe that angels and spirit guides are there just as helpers. Like maybe you're lost in the city. Like I was one time lost in Harlem.
Oh gosh.
As a little, me and two of my other friends who were very white, and we were lost in the heart of Harlem, and we had been lost for like 3 hours, and I think we were just going deeper and deeper, and we were just like, I was just praying. I was like, please, like, give me an out, show me which way to go. We had got off the subway and held the map upside down.
Oh gosh.
So yeah, we were young and stupid, but it was dark now, and this taxi on the other side of the road, we were walking this way, other side of the road, taxi going this way, screeches to a halt in the middle of the road. And it's a woman, thank God. And she was Mexican, and she's like, you three now in my car now.
Oh, really?
And we hadn't seen a taxi for a long time. So we hustled across the street. We got in the car, and she's like, what are you guys doing down here? And we're like, we are lost. And she's like, yeah, you are. She goes, I shouldn't even be down here. And I was like, holy crap. This was back in like 2007. And she got us to the hotel that we were staying at, which I got because it was cheap. And, obviously we almost died. People were like saying things to us on the street and like making comments to us. And like, that's a moment where I feel like, okay, an angel has stepped in. Mm-hmm. And like, yes, I'm praying to God, but he sent somebody else. Like that woman, like she just spotted us, glanced, and was like, whoa, these kids are going to get killed here. Yeah. And she was not wrong, So do I believe that was a God moment or an angel moment? I don't know who's responsible, but I have heard I've heard stories where friends were walking home and they didn't feel right, and a person came up and like showed them the way, and then they turned around, went around the corner, and they disappear. So was that an angel? Was that a spirit? Was that,
yeah,
there's too many questions, right?
I want to believe all of that, so
that's why I want to do that's why I want to hear from a medium, because I feel like a medium or something like that who can validate, like, oh, your grandma says like blah 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 blah, and it's something only she would say, or your grandma's watching your YouTube videos or something like that, because she used to help me with them, something like that, where I can be like, okay, like all I want is that one session, that one moment where I can go, this is real, there is another plane, there is something else. I don't want to see a ghost. I always pray to God. I'm like, look, I want to know the truth, but I don't want to see it.
Yeah.
I can't.
Right.
I'll never sleep again.
I
I don't
know.
even sleep in the dark. I sleep with lights on, like
Do
not like
you?
full lights, but
Yeah.
because I don't want to see an apparition. I don't know if they're real, but if they are, I don't want to see them.
Yeah.
But I
Yep.
do want to
Yep.
know if they're there. But I also sometimes feel like they're there. So it's like, oh God,
Oh my goodness.
there's just so many things we don't know, and there's so many planes of existence. And I mean, if we have the capacity to believe in God,
Hmm.
then why wouldn't we have the capacity to believe in spirit and spirit guides and
Yeah.
angels and demons and things that we can't explain?
Yeah. I've always had this sense, and I think it was fostered in me because I was just so heavily involved in church since the time I was born. This belief that there is something beyond the physical world that we live in, that that I just that part has been more real to me over my entire growing up and my life than sometimes the real here and physical stuff that's right in front of me. I have a
Right.
very rich internal life, and it's just like,
I know what that's
and
like.
yeah, no, it's just, so of course that feels just natural to me. And
Yeah.
I've had a lot of God moments where I truly know that I have felt the presence of God and have known
Yeah.
it. And yeah, so
I think
it's,
that's what keeps us connected, is that we remember those moments and we know what those moments are. And um, one thing I was thinking about recently is I don't want to deconstruct to the point where I lose God.
yeah, yeah.
Like I'm 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 about to start a new treatment for my anxiety, which is very scientific. Um, it's called neurofeedback, and somebody's gonna put little stickies on my head and map my brain
Mm-hmm.
and see where my physical pathways are in trouble. And essentially, it's going to reroute me somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
So, like when you read about being mindful and in the Eastern traditions of, you have to reset your pathways.
Mm-hmm.
That's a physical thing. That's a real thing in your brain. There's real grooves in your brain that your thought process, every time you think that way, gets deeper and deeper, and you automatically go there, which
Mm-hmm.
is part of your indoctrination, which is part of where your fear comes from.
Mm-hmm.
This treatment, which could take up to 30 treatments, I just talked to the woman last night. It's like 5-10 minutes of treatment. They kind of zap it away. So you go a different way. And they can
Interesting.
pinpoint in, yeah, they can pinpoint in the brain which places to zap. Because I was like, I don't want to lose my personality. And I don't want to, like, I talked to my pastor about this because I was like, uh, is this playing God? Like,
Yeah.
is this something? But I think it's something that'll really help me. And even though I kind of had already decided I was going to do it, again, that knee jerk reaction is I should ask permission. Not permission,
Yeah.
but like kind of ask permission. Like, do you think this is something I should do as a person of faith? Like,
Mm-hmm.
and the answer was yes. And I technically I was going to do it anyway, but you just want that validation. So as I'm thinking about this, I'm like, well, you know, at, at the evangelical church, they would have said, well, God will heal your pathways. God will change that. Well, no, I'm going to go to this person's office and they're going to put electrodes in my brain and literally rewire my brain. I mean, is God in that? Maybe, yeah, that he allowed us to show us how to do that. Or so I had to change my thinking from with them where they would be like, God will heal you, and
Yeah.
then go into this new space where God is in the science.
Mm. Well, God is in everything. And,
Right.
it's just, yeah, I mean, I carried so much fear about medication for so long and vaccines, even. And I
Mm-hmm.
mean, a lot of fear with that because it wasn't of God, it was a man made solution, and you can't trust man, and I mean all this thing.
Man wrote the Bible, baby. I
But
mean,
only,
that's the thing.
yeah, only under God's, blessing and direction, right? So like, but then how do you know what's God directed and what isn't? The only way you know is
Yeah,
by using your brain, the brain you got
that
that God gave you.
that was
And
always my question. Yeah.
yeah,
How do you know what's of God and what's not? Because
yeah,
I had people back then be like, God told me you're going to meet the man you marry this year. And that was 3 years ago. And I don't want to marry a man.
yeah.
So,
So what's up with
and
that?
it, yeah. And everybody's like, oh, that came from, so and so. And he is really dead on. Like he's really connected to God and this and that. Cool. I
Yeah,
remember thinking to myself, he ain't right.
yeah,
But, but not only did he believe that he spoke to God, everyone around him was like, "Oh yeah, you can trust him. He's definitely talking to God." But like maybe sometimes he does.
yeah,
But
sure. But you are the receiver of that information. If it doesn't sit well with you, then you know best of all, not the other. You do, right? That's
I yes, but they tried to tell me that I don't know and
yeah,
that
I
I don't
know.
know and I need to listen to the people that came before me and who have been doing this longer, which is not valid either.
No, I mean, nope, it's not. It just isn't. And
Nope.
it just opens you up to so many problems. I just keep going back to that. That's been the biggest thing
Yeah.
is I just from that whole lifestyle is me giving away my own personal authority on things and my own validating my own experiences and giving power over to other people. And I'm kind of done with that.
Good.
Anyways, so
Good.
yeah.
No, and that's the journey, right? Is taking back your power, taking back your voice and setting boundaries. And that's hard. Even for someone like me who has a big mouth. Mine is boundaries. I have no problem voicing my thoughts, but the boundary parts, cutting off everybody, which I have done now, like even though they weren't talking to me, I knew they could see like me on social media. So removing them from my digital footprint was really hard for me. But it did make me feel freer. And now I'm just advocating for other people like, do that thing, cut those ties. And I'm not saying build walls, but just associate, put energy and love into the people that are going to support you and do it the way you want to do it. Not no, that's not what I want to say. Who respect the way that you're taking on your journey.
Yeah, sure. Yep.
So,
Yeah, speaking of your own way of taking on a spiritual journey, one thing that I'm kind of fascinated by is this term. But I'm not sure there's one way to know what this means, but the sacred arts. I love that term and what that might entail as far as building one's own rituals, one's own sacred arts to bring you into the presence of God in everyday life. So, like, for example, having a home altar where you just have
okay.
a space where you go to pray, you light a candle, have some flowers, you have whatever, those types of things that you can do personally that are meaningful to you in your own home. I love that idea. And it can encompass so many things from these different practices that we're talking about of Reiki, of
Right.
maybe even taking out a tarot card every morning and like reading it and being like, okay, how can
Yeah.
I think through how can this apply to me in my area?
Setting intentions. Yep.
Setting intentions, and asking myself, what is it that I want to bring to God this morning? What do I want to move forward in my life with? And how am I going to connect with God in life and co-create in this life together with God?
That's a big question.
It is a big question. And
Where
it's a
did you hear about this
beautiful
sacred
one.
arts? It is,
I
absolutely.
don't even remember. It was something I read online. It was like an article. I think somebody who who does some sort of sacred arts practice. And it opened up. I love that term because I think a lot of things fit into it. And I love anything that
Hmm.
could fit into that, like exploring the different rituals of ways to connect with God, different theologies, different doctrines, different. I, I just love it. I love exploring those possibilities and seeing. I just feel like each one that I explore kind of opens up a new window of like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. That is true. That's what I've experienced there. Reading like a Buddhist, like the Tao Te Ching, I can't even say it,
Yeah.
but, and reading like, and be like, oh, I recognize that. And that's what I've
Yeah.
experienced with Jesus when I've had these interactions with Jesus over the years. I see that there. And anyways, I'm fascinated by it, and I love to continue to explore them all and talk about them. And
I think
yeah.
with that stuff is like when you're recognizing God in other religions and stuff like that, it reminds you that there isn't one way. There's so many ways. And
Yes.
it really is, I don't want to say the same, but there are similarities and there are likenesses in every corner of this earth. It's not just you get dunked on the altar and you're the only one saved, you
Yep.
know?
Yep.
I do have a not I wouldn't say it, I kind of call it an altar, but it's sort of a shelf. And I'm looking at it right now. And I don't pray on it. I just have like my special things. So I have like the first cross anyone ever gave me, and a picture of my sister-in-law when I found out she was going to become my family. It's a picture of her with her engagement ring. I have a Buddha, a couple resting Buddhas up there. Um, I have a Mary Magdalene candle that somebody gave me just because, you know, I thought it was funny when people are like, oh, you can't pray to saints or like saint candles are wrong. Oh, shut up. I have a glow in the dark Mother Mary,
Oh, do
which
you
we,
really?
yeah, which we used to call, well, we call her glow in the dark Mary. And I remember showing her to my friend, the deacon, and she's like, that is not okay. And I was like,
Oh,
why? It's
really?
Mother Mary. It's literally, she's green. She's just all green. Like you can charge her and at night she glows. Like, and she goes, Carolyn, that's so wrong. And I'm like, I'm going to just send this picture to you every day. um, they really pushed for me to take down like my Buddhas and my glow in the dark Mary. And I was like, never. Um,
Yeah.
and then there's a picture I did in the art class with them with an alien abducting a moose. So if that's any indication of like where
Uh,
my spiritual mind is, oh, and there's a mermaid up there too. So whatever
oh, I
you want
love it.
to whatever you want to connect with, it's something for everybody
Oh, I
or
love
every
it.
corner of my mind. But
Oh, well.
there's a lot more exploring to do.
Yeah.
So once I do my second Reiki with this shaman, I'll definitely want to report back to comment on the difference
Hmm.
in styles and whatever. Um, so
Yeah, very curious what else this shaman does. Like, does she take people on these like shamanic journeys? I've heard that, like the shamanic journeying, where they kind of beat the drum and it takes you into an altered state of consciousness and you
no
travel to
idea.
other places. Hmm.
Well, it's funny you say that, the drum thing, because there are drums at this church that I guess the old spiritual director used to use. And I was
Hmm.
like, we should do that. Like, I love that they have so many different ways to like, we do say namaste sometimes. We do deep breathing in church. Like,
Hmm.
we have mindful moments. And like you mentioned the drum circle, like that was one of the activities they did outside of, during fellowship or whatever. And, you know, it's nice to just know that people are open to trying different ways to connect.
Yeah.
That's how it should be.
Yeah, that is nice. That's
Real quick though, before we go, I'd love to know where you are on your Lent journey, on your atheism journey of Lent.
oh, I have nothing to report because
Fired. No, just kidding.
yeah, I know. Well, I started it and I just had a lot of stuff to deal with. It was too heavy of a topic for me to take on at the moment, so I had to put it
Yeah.
aside. And I'm always consuming some type of information, and I just had to trade it out for something a lot lighter.
Yeah. That book that you
So,
told me to read, Untamed by Glennon Doyle,
mm-hmm.
I have not made it through that book for the same reason.
Too
I
heavy.
would
Yeah.
listen I would listen to one chapter at a time. And after that, it'd be like an intense show or something. I'd have to stop it and like wait a couple weeks and then do another one because
Yeah.
there's just so much in healing work that you really have to pace yourself. And even though you are giving up God for Lent, it's still your
Mm-hmm.
healing work, and
Yeah.
it's something that you have to pace yourself, so you don't get turned off by it completely. So
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, I do have all the readings now, and I just might do them at a different time as I feel that I can move through them. But yeah, I
right.
mean, talking atheism and working through all those tough questions is was a little heavy for me to
Yeah, that's like
manage
the
at the moment.
polar opposite of where you came from. So that's a lot to digest.
Hmm. Yeah,
But
it's one of those other fear points for me. The idea of life without God, like if there's no, what if there's no God? Oh my gosh,
yeah.
yeah, that would
Oh my
that's
God.
I
Life
know.
without God. Oh my God. Yeah, that
So
would, yeah, there's something. I just know that there's something. Maybe we have it
I
wrong. Maybe it's,
know
but
that's
there's
not
something.
there's yeah, I don't think that I would ever move to the other side, but I definitely do want to know how the other side thinks. And I
Yeah,
feel like that's an important and good thing to look into because it might change the way that I think about things, but I can't ever deny my experiences of God. So I think I'm stuck there, which
that's
is okay with
that's
me.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. But I think that concludes today. I think we got a lot of good stuff out. Um, and going forward, I just want to be a little bit more relaxed and less, like I said at the beginning of this, I think I was getting too academic with how I was thinking about coming at the podcast, but really it's a discussion, and this organic conversation feels much better and meaningful and hopefully helpful for other
Yeah.
people too, because it's just another reminder that, you know what, some days I'm not going to put on my makeup and I'm not going to get dressed and I'm not going to brush my hair, but because healing and self-care don't always happen,
Yeah.
and I'm dealing with other stuff, so I appreciate the space, and I appreciate that anybody listening, even if it's just you, Faith.
Yep. Okay. It's good to
But
have these conversations and talk it through. So,
yeah,
yep.
every day is a chance to learn something new and make our lives a little bit easier and better, and that's what we're trying to do here.
Yep. Sounds like a
So
good
join
path.
us. I don't know what we'll talk about next time. I'm sure it'll pop up and we'll just go with the flow.
We'll let the spirit lead.
Amen.
Amen.
Preach. Until next time, goodbye.
Goodbye.
Cut.